BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the home stretch for NBA and NHL playoffs. And there's more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NHL, and UFC. And in between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino. All the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino action. So BetOnline, the game starts here. I want to get into, because you mentioned something here that I want to get into, because I've heard you kind of. It's funny too, because everybody thinks of me and Conan are just AEW haters, right? Well, let me just give you our two biggest points of contention: the way they produce their television, that I think you've agreed with in the past.
Yeah.
Like everybody, like Dave will sit to say, "Well, God, AEW has so many stories." I'm like, yeah, but you're not telling the stories. Telling a story means a video package of things that have happened on other show, or the thread where, like, if I'm turning on your show, you're telling me, like the way the WWE does with these video package, you're explaining the storyline to me. Then the story is produced on television. And like we talk about constantly on AEW, how like that is their biggest production, the way you compare them to WWE, is that they're very poor at audience capture, because they don't really, they assume you know everything. They assume you watch Collision. They assume you watch this. They assume you watch all their
YouTube.
TV. But if you don't, it's like it's kind of difficult to follow. It's like they're going like, why is this random Japanese guy so important? Why is this like they don't tell the story? And I think you've agreed with that too, Brian, that they need to
Let me piggyback off that before you answer. So the problem is they, like, I remember one time I was like, what? Because we have this guy that joins us every week. He's an AEW fan, so much so that he has it on his license plate, but he is a friend of the show. And I was like, why did this happen? He goes, oh, it was explained on BTE, or Being the Elite, or whatever that show's called. And I was like, what? So let me see. You've got commentators there to commentate. It's almost like if you're watching a UFC match, no video package, and the commentators don't so about them. I mean, they would bring all these Japanese and Mexican talent, not have any, and you're wondering what is going on here. But go ahead.
Well, this is going to sound like a weird way to start this, but I always remember the story. I was at a post-show press conference at an AEW show.
Right.
And the show, I mean, it was like 5 hours or whatever, and I'm tired, and I'm waiting for the press conference to start, and then the press conference starts, and it goes for like an hour or whatever, and I'm just exhausted. And finally, some reporter asked Tony a question, and I can't remember what it was, but he was clearly offended by this question. And it might have been something like, whatever it was. But anyway, his response to this was, he goes, actually, this does make sense, and this began in 2021. And he proceeded to explain this entire storyline from 2021 all the way through whatever it was, like 2023 when I was at this press conference. And not only did he remember everything that happened, but he was like, this one happened in Louisville, Kentucky on April 21st. And then on May 15th, and he's like naming the cities, and he just remembered everything. And I was so tired, but like I sat there and I just woke up because I was like, he's been going for 15 minutes about this storyline. And when it was over, I was glad I'd been there, even though I was exhausted, because I was like, this is one of the problems. And that is, this guy remembers everything. He remembers everything that happened on every show, in every building. He's like a photographic memory of everything that he's ever done in wrestling. And I think that everybody often, and especially if you go online, you'll see this all the time. Everybody thinks everybody else is like them, okay? And I don't think he thinks that everybody has a memory like he does, but I do think that he often forgets that almost everyone else doesn't. Because sometimes I'll watch the television, and it's like he's writing it for himself. I remember that this person did this in this town on this day to this person. So I'm going to do a follow-up to that. And if you're one of the people, like he calls them the sickos, and I deal with them every day. if you're one of these really hardcore AEW fans and you are like Tony, then when a guy like me or Disco or whoever says, what's going on here? They'll go, you didn't see the Ring of Honor show 3 weeks ago where this guy turned on that? It's like, no, I didn't. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. And like, I could look it up. There's part of me that's like, well, it's my job, so maybe I should look it up. But also my job is like, I'm supposed to be critiquing the show. And a lot of times I will point out, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea why this is happening. And then, you know, someone on Twitter, oh, it's because of this. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you remember. The viewer needs to remember.
Right.
There are not enough video packages. And like, if you are one of these AEW sickos, when you suggest video packages, they get angry. They're like, I don't want it to be like WWE. I don't want to be spoon-fed what's going on.
Bro,
and I'm always like, that's fine for you, but you aren't the audience. You're going to watch no matter what. What about all of the other people who aren't sickos and like they need to be told, okay, this is what happened. I watched NXT last night. I didn't see the PLE this weekend. I just had too much stuff to do. They had like a 2-3 minute video package at the beginning of NXT. I know everything that happened on that show. I know who won what. I know who turned on who. I know why. I know every angle they did on Saturday. It was a 3-minute video package.
Right.
So I watched the NXT show, and not once was I like, what's going on here?
Right.
Because I missed the show on Saturday.
Could you imagine, Brian, Game of Thrones not having the cold open, or Breaking Bad not having the cold open because it serves
TV shows,
Right.
movies,
Right.
everybody does
Right.
the. There's nothing wrong with the television show opening with a recap.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with shooting a big angle. WWE does this. It's a 3-hour show. They shoot a big angle the first 15 minutes. They replay it at the top of the second hour. They replay the top of the third hour. In case you tune in early, you tune in late, whatever, you're going to know what happened. And the thing is with AEW, WWE, any of these shows, almost nobody watches an entire show from start to finish.
No.
If you look at the numbers, people tune into the beginning, they watch an hour. People tune in an hour in, they watch an hour. People tune in an hour and a half in, they watch till the end. That's how people watch TV. And so if you shoot a big angle at the beginning, I got to see at the end. If they shoot a big angle in the middle, I got to see it the next week in case I missed it. That's how you have to do TV. And yes, they don't do it enough.
Well, let me extrapolate too. You just segue into a perfect thing they want to talk about, bro. Like I don't watch the shows from start to finish, okay? Because and this is what infuriates me. Not infuriates, but I just can't stand when like Dave these days has been dying to know what the max numbers are, and I'm like, guys, there are so many other platforms. But back in the we grew up in the Attitude Era, right? 10 million people watching wrestling, but the only way to watch wrestling is on TV. That's it. Bro, computers, phones, all the media platforms, what WWE is doing, like 5 to 10 millions of views on like a Punk Seth, like an in-ring angle. If you miss the show, they have so much content across all these other media platforms. You don't have to watch like the show from start to finish and keep up with it. Like you said, like you can miss something, you can, but they'll cue you back in with a video package and stuff. And I think that if you take that concept and the way that the WWE with video package, audience capture, social media views, YouTube, and look at their attendance, okay? All they're doing is maximizing the amount of eyes on the product to maximize live attendance. So like their numbers don't really matter. Like what they do on Netflix is irrelevant. They're doing so much on everything else because they're selling out. The thing with AEW is, bro, you can look at their TV numbers, but they're irrelevant right now because they're not high enough to equate to attendance. When their attendance figures start rising, then you'll know, okay, maybe the max numbers are big, or maybe their views. But do you agree that like the AEW is kind of like underwhelming numbers on TV and the way that extrapolates to the lack of audience capture and the lack of attendance? Do you think that's their biggest problem compared to what WWE does?
Well, I think one of the things that's really different between the two companies, and I've had people argue this as well. They have so many people under contract that
ridiculous.
I think they need to do a brand split. I think they need to do a Collision roster, and I think they need to do a Dynamite roster. Because the way it is right now, one of the things that is a big one of the reasons WWE does so well, besides everything that you said, is if WWE's coming to your town, if SmackDown's coming to your town, and they just announce in 3 months we're going to be here, they don't need to announce a lineup. You're going to buy your ticket, and you know who's going to be there because SmackDown has a roster, and those guys are on every SmackDown. Every SmackDown. Unless it's like Roman Reigns. They'll announce Roman in advance because he's not on every SmackDown. But if you generally know the SmackDown roster, if you buy a ticket to SmackDown, you're going to see all those guys. And that's why you're going. You want to see the stars. You want to see what they're going to do. In AEW, they don't have two rosters. And you never know who's going to be on any show. I mean, tonight they announced an Owen Hart Cup match. And they announced the return of FTR, whatever that means. And they announced Master P. Okay. And I think one of the tag match, Young Bucks have a tag match. It's all they announced. Okay. And they announced those things like in the last couple of days. So if you saw the announcement that AEW is coming to your town even in 2 weeks, you have no idea who's going to be there. You're a fan of Hangman. Who the knows if he's going to be there? Nobody knows. Right. So I think what they need to do is like have a core group of guys that are in storylines. And that core group is going to be on every Dynamite. And the other core group is going to be on every Collision. Then you put tickets on sale, everybody knows who they're going to see, and they can show up and see them. Because if you look at the ratings, and you also look at the attendance, the less AEW announces, the fewer people watch and the fewer people show up. Whereas with WWE, it doesn't matter what they announce. They're going to do a huge crowd because their fans know when I buy a Raw ticket, I'm going to be yeeting with Jey Uso. I'm going to see Randy Orton, whoever. They know they're going to see those guys there. And you don't have that with AEW. So I think that's actually one of the bigger things. If you actually look at how they do, it's like fans don't know who's going to be there on any given day at a show or on television.
I'm going to give you another problem. So, bro, I couldn't believe this. I had to ask. Bro, they don't have production meetings. I'm thinking to myself, why do you laugh?
Because this is all because of me. And I can tell you what happened.
Well, we reported this like a year. I found this a year ago and just brought it up. And I was like, wow, I get, but if you watch the show, a lot of that makes sense because if you've been in production meetings, there's a lot of awkward outs of their segments.
Yes.
Sometimes they.
Or how about this one?
How about this one? They did a spot where they tasered a guy and just immediately went to the next ring entrance. The guys coming out, the announcers didn't even have time to talk about a guy getting tasered in the back. They had to start announcing the guys coming to the ring. And that's like all production meeting stuff.
Here's the thing.
And one last thing before you answer. And plus, bro, there's no excuse. And I know that's the truck, but Tony's at Gorilla, and he could say pull away. The amount of people blatantly on air, right? And remember that time that guy, and everybody makes mistakes, WWE does too, but this is one of my favorite ones. The one where the guy was punching the mat. Remember the guy was laying down? Yeah. I'm like, why did that last that long?
I preferred seeing him punch the mat than when Kevin Dunn used to do 85 camera cuts in 10 seconds and I nearly vomited.
Right.
Hated that. But anyway, so the thing with the production meeting is they do not have a traditional pro wrestling production meeting, which is you get everybody in a room, you take the script, you run it down, everybody knows what they're going to do, and everyone goes their separate ways, okay? Tony's production
Let the people for that don't know who is everybody, like,
it'd be the agents, it'd be whatever top guys needed to be involved or know something, the production people, the Tony
Usually
Khan.
the wrestlers are not in the meetings. The announcers.
Usually they're not,
The TV guys, the director of camera, the agent.
Everyone involved in production is in a room together at the same time going down the thing.
Right.
So Tony doesn't do that, but he says that he has production meetings throughout the afternoon is the way he phrases it. So he'll call in this guy, they'll run down the show. That person will leave, he'll call in this guy, they'll run down the show. So the reason that the no production meeting thing came out is because a lot of the veterans want a traditional, old school, this is a production meeting.
And they're right.
Tony doesn't like doing that. So he says, no, it's not true we don't have production meetings. I talk to everybody throughout the afternoon. So
I'll give you an example.
I'll
give you an example.
What is a production meeting in every other company on earth? They don't do it.
Right.
But
And every
talk to all the production people.
every TV show that is in existence has production meetings. Well, basically, yes. I've been on a lot of TV shows. Yes. So I'll give you an example. So remember when, maybe you can remind me good who it was. Remember when Thunder Rosa came out with a chair?
And Megan Bain, yes. Horrible.
Right. Because they weren't all together in the same room. I was told by a very credible source.
They weren't. They each person was told something individually.
Right.
And then they got to the ring and everyone was like,
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was like it was 1970 and it was like the heel locker room and the babyface locker room.
Exactly.
Had to run back and forth. And,
exactly.
Right.
But it's funny too that like the thing with the production means the announcers are clued in more to what's going on, so they can narrate more stuff, and it's kind of like they just like it's like they're talking on the fly. It's like, you know, so, I don't know, like that to me is the most egregious thing is there's no production meeting, because like, well, you can just see throughout the show that the awkward outs of segments of
and
can
I tell you another
before he's done talking in a pre-tape and so whatever. You know.
Can I tell you another idea that I also have? I think because Tony wants to do everything himself, Mr. 4 times Booker of the Year, okay, and he wants to take credit for everything, okay. He has a slight ego, and so, you know, I think he wants to be revered like Vince McMahon or his dad. That's not happening anytime soon. And he'll tell you, like he would tell me, yeah, I wrote the whole thing, and I wrote this, and I wrote that show, and I wrote this show. Bro, one time, listen to what he told me. He goes, I wrote the Chris Jericho cruise. So what? Like, what a... You know, that's what a mark. So I always said, give one show, for example, like Collision, to maybe Sanjay Dutt, Jimmy Jacobs. You know, they know, you know, maybe give another show to somebody, you know, I don't know, fill in the blank. And then you're like the lead editor and you go, yes, yes, no, but don't try to write everything because it's too much. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's absolutely. So here, like, he should not be doing Ring of Honor right now. I mean,
right.
Absolutely not. Anybody can do Ring of Honor.
Right.
Collision and Dynamite. The problem with two different writers right now is they're not two different shows. You know, they have two different names, but it's like there is no split.
Right.
Like a guy.
But that's
like
why you
Moxley,
have the writer,
Moxley
so
will
he
be
can
on
have
both
his
shows.
vision.
Exactly. So it would be easier if you actually had two shows, two rosters, two brands. Tony does one, other dude does one.
Right.
And, you know, I don't necessarily think you need a draft every year. You can just like, okay, Edge has run his course, or Copeland, he's going to move over to Dynamite now, and we're going to switch this guy over. Don't make a big deal out of it, whatever. Make some switches when you need it. If you really need someone on another show, whatever, you can be loose. But it's easier to have two bookers when you actually have two different shows with two rosters. Because otherwise, it's like Tony writes all this stuff on this day. This other guy wants to do this, but Tony's like, well, no, because I'm usually going to do this on Wednesday. It's just a whole rigmarole. If this guy's responsible for Collision, this guy's responsible for Dynamite, your Collision matches on the pay-per-view, Dynamite match on the whatever, I think that'd be a lot easier. I think there's so many benefits to a brand split, but like nobody wants to see it because they remember WWE brand splits. But like the way they do it now is actually really effective, and they don't do the stupid Vince used to do. If they
with
need
the
a
blue
guy
shirts
on both
versus
shows,
red shirts in the two shows, like
Yeah,
you don't know what team you're on.
Blue t-shirts.
yeah, it's like
red,
there's
so
a
stupid,
SmackDown roster and there's a Raw roster.
Right.
If you need some Raw guys on SmackDown because someone got hurt, whatever, doesn't matter. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. If not, they're back on their show. And like fans buy their ticket, they know who's going to be on that show. They buy their ticket, they know who's going to be on that show. You don't need to have a big lineup in advance. They're still going to buy their tickets. I mean, there's a lot of, and plus, you're not overexposing guys. You know, they're not on 2 shows a week.
Let me ask you this, Brian. What are you right now? What are you a fan of? Like what accent? Yeah, what accent on these shows are you like invested in? Like that you're a fan of? Like who's your favorite acts right now? Like a person comes on, oh, I can't wait to see this. Like a person that's a draw to you. Like
I mean, I listen. I like watching Will Ospreay. I love watching his matches. I think Hangman should be maybe their top babyface. I think he's great.
He should.
You know, I even think that, like, as much as people hate the Death Riders, it's like when they did that thing at the end of the show where Moxley got tapped out and the trios titles changed, those people went crazy.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah, because I don't get the Death Riders. So Jimmy Utah, not imposing at all.
By the way, Conan mispronounces guys. So it's
what's his name?
Wheeler, Utah.
Wheeler, Utah. Okay. So Wheeler, Utah is not intimidating by any shape or form. Would you agree with that?
I've seen more intimidating guys.
Okay, that's very diplomatic. You must be friends with him. Okay, Marina Shafir
I'm actually not friends with him, but I didn't want to bear.
Okay, so Marina Shafir, she's not imposing whatsoever. Somebody like China or that chick they have now that they're giving a push to, Madison Bay, that one. Like I could see her in that group. Now I love Claudio to death because I know him personally. He's not very intimidating. You know what I'm saying? And even though his act is good, his promos are great, and he invests really good in his character, Moxley ain't the most imposing guy I've seen. I'll tell you who's imposing to me on that show, and it's one of my favorite acts, the Hurt Business. There ain't nobody that's questioning, their toughness.
No, they're not, but like they're supposed to be heels, and they're the top babyface act.
Yeah,
because the people gonna kill every single one of your baby faces.
The people turned them face because they ain't geeky like everybody else. Well, Okada, bro, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. What a geek! I remember he went
very poorly.
I remember when he went to that Monet party. Remember, she had a party. She was celebrating. She was champion. It was her birthday, and there was like 2 people, a couple balloons, and he was freaking like he's never seen a female in his life. I go, the guy's got a cool look, and he dresses good, and he's a great wrestler. Why are you making him look like a? The word he uses.
I'd use geek.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Brian. You think because we I think they have something, and the way the storyline to me is going, and I don't know which actual direction they're going to ride it in, but MJF and Bobby Lashley, like there's like that angle is like going that route, but like who, like how do you think they're going to write this? Like,
I don't have an answer.
Right, that's to say, who's the babyface and who's the heel here?
I have no earthly idea.
But you want to see those guys fight because, like, because the thing is like they do this constantly on that show. Will they have we'll have the heels outnumber a or baby faces outnumber a heel? Like there'll be one heel and like against 2 baby faces. Like it's kind of weird.
Backwards.
But MJF is not back down to these guys. Like he's still talking. I could see him being the baby face out of this, and I know we like the Hurt Business, but like. Who are you going to cheer for in Bobby Lashley versus MJF?
Well, I mean, I know at this point because they're cheering everybody.
Right, exactly. There's not a lot of heat on that show. It's a problem,
Well, I think it's. I mean, like the one that really bothered me for a while was Toni Storm, when she was the most over woman in the entire company, and everybody cheered her, and they wouldn't turn her baby face, and they just kept. Feeding her these other baby faces who like would just get booed out of the building or nobody would care about the match because like they didn't want to boo Tony, but they were put in a position where they had to, and it was like you're killing every babyface woman on this roster. She's got to turn, and finally she turned, and it was like okay, good, she's a babyface now. But then it's like now the same thing is happening with the Hurt Business. It's like they have babyface teams, but like the Hurt Business is more over than any team. So, you can put, like, everybody's talking about the Outrunners, okay? There was a period where, for whatever reason, the Outrunners got really over.
And they were ready to click, yeah.
I liked them.
Crowd was just going nuts for them no matter where. I mean, everywhere they went, they were just going nuts. And it was like, just put the tag belts on.
Pull the trigger, right.
If it doesn't work, take them off. But, like, right now is the time. So they didn't. They put them on Private Party. And, like, they're just kind of doing whatever. And then they fed them to the Hurt Business.
Oh.
And the Hurt Business was supposed to be heels, and the Outrunners were supposed to be baby faces. When it was over, the Outrunners were geeks, and Hurt Business are top baby faces, and it's like you just killed an act right there. Yeah. Because you're these heels in the wrong, like they're baby faces, but you're pushing them as heels, and you're killing the other baby faces.
Right.
Yeah, they just did it to Big Bill and Little Bill, or what's his name?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. especially Little Bill. He got nothing in.
No.
Well, yeah, it's funny too because I mean, I don't want to harp on AEW all the time, but they just make a lot of basic errors that you see from coming from a guy that a booker that doesn't really lean on a lot of guys that have a lot of experience doing this. Bro, booking TV, it's been 5 years. This guy's been doing 5 years worth of TV and he's written every show. And it's if you look at the metrics, at some point, if he wasn't the owner of the company, the owner would be stepping in and saying, "Hey, we need to let another coach come in right now and try it because the numbers aren't that good. Let's delegate some of the booking to other people." And it's I don't know, man. It's just I don't see it changing until there's a creative change on that show from the top, where Tony actually relents and says, "All right, I'm going to let somebody else try this now." Well, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's just he would be much better off if he had more people that he trusted to help him do this. It's too hard to do it all by yourself. You're doing Dynamite, you're doing Collision, you're doing Ring of Honor. He was doing Rampage there for a while.
He's doing the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's
Battle
doing
of the Bells.
Fulham.
Yeah, it's listen, the funny thing is, I'm a really big fan of AEW, but I will get really mad about things because at the end of the day, it's kind of like you said. It's if there was no hope, I wouldn't give. Who cares? Right. There's no hope. But what makes me angry is sometimes it's this could be really easily fixed. Just turn these guys babyface. Little like that. This one isn't hard. Just do this. Those are the kind of things. That's why, and I have a tendency to really go off when I get mad about things.
Right.
Sometimes I have these, why do you hate AEW? I hate how negative you are. And it's I'm actually positive most of the time. But when things irritate me, especially when they're things that are easily remedied, okay? If it's something hard, what can you do, all right? But if it's something easy, it gets really frustrating because it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. Plus, too, is everybody and their mother WWE was getting it from the fans for years for the creative, and then all of a sudden, when Roman showed up on TV one day with Paul Heyman, their creative changed, and all of a sudden it was good. But now they're both companies now are in a rut again. It's just very hard to find that magic that you found with the Bloodline angle, and now that's dissipated. It's what's the next magical thing? Is it going to be Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins as a new Heyman guys, or is it?
Well,
what do you think? What do you think about that, by the way?
I liked it because I think Braun Breaker's awesome.
Me too.
I think that Triple H's biggest strength, okay, which both Vince and Tony are not strong at this, is if something starts to get over, Hunter will go with it.
Right. And
Vince, if something got over, he'd fight it. And with Tony, sometimes things will get over and he'll go with it, but then he won't have a follow-up to it. He'll like Private Party, they had a great match on pay-per-view, so it was let's put the belts on Private Party. And then they beat the Young Bucks and the place goes wild. And then
I'm going to give you one. Again. I'm going to give you one. So Vikingo went in there with a lot of pyro and ballyhoo, as he should. He had an incredible debut match with Kenny Omega. You remember that match?
Yep.
Okay, what do you think they did? What do you think they did to him the next week?
They beat him.
He was in a meaningless 6-man.
Okay.
Bro, the guy just tore the up, and you're not gonna. What would be the word?
Capitalize.
Yeah. Well, capitalize. Right. Yeah. You're not. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to feature him. That's the word.
Brian,
I think the reason I brought up the Bloodline is because everyone talks about the Bloodline,
right?
And it actually was probably the most successful WWE angle, maybe of all time.
Yeah,
if you look at how much business it did for the last 2 WrestleManias. But what people don't remember is the Bloodline got over because of Sammy. And when Sammy was put in that position to be in the Bloodline, he was only supposed to be there for a little while, and then they were going to do whatever. But he was so good, and he'd get Jay to crack, and people thought that was hilarious. And then Roman reacting to him, and him reacting to these guys. Next thing you know, they're great TV. So they went with it, and that is what built the Bloodline to what it ended up being. So that's the thing. It's if you're the booker, you can have all the ideas you want, okay? If one of your ideas isn't working, let it go.
Right.
And if something happens that is
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of something we talked about. of something we talked about yesterday. So I know that Gargano and Ciampa are really good wrestlers, and I'm sure they were very easy to work with in NXT. Bro, they're not over. Let them go and give somebody else a chance. Maybe repackage them if you want. The same thing with LeRae. The same, you know what I'm saying? That you're like, remember the girl they just got rid of, Dakota, what's her name?
Dakota Sky. She got hurt again, though, I
Aye.
think.
Yeah, Dakota
Dakota
Kai's
Kai.
still with the company.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, she's still
They,
there.
they got rid of.
Bro, they put her in the with the
Oh, Sonya
Japanese.
Deville they got rid of.
I thought Sonya
Sonya
was
Deville,
very
yeah.
talented.
Yeah.
But
She was very good.
but the two Japanese girls. It was Sky and
Kyrie
and
is hurt.
Asuka.
Oh, Kyrie is
yeah.
hurt?
Kyrie's hurt
yeah.
and Asuka's hurt.
Yeah.
Although Kyrie should be back soon.
So
Right.
Dakota was in that team, right? She
Yeah.
looked super out of place. When they brought Kairi Sane in, and the three Japanese girls were like together walking into the show like they do at the beginning, bro, they dress cool, they look cool, you know, and I was like, why you keep sticking this girl here? You know, she's not, but sometimes they're very, and I'm like that. If the fans do the favor for me of picking somebody and saying, that's the guy we want, I don't question it, you know?
Yeah,
I
go
go
for
with
it.
that, right.
Yeah, because I hate to use a term because people hate it, but like it's fake.
Right.
It goes wrong, change it.
Right.
Right? If an act gets over, go with it. And if it gets over bigger, great. If it doesn't get over, you beat them, you move on to the next thing.
Right.
And
me ask you
Hunter's
this,
actually very good at that. Like Kerian Cross this weekend, he did that promo.
Right.
And like
Right.
people were like, oh my God, is it a shoot? Even though he's talking about the finish at WrestleMania. But anyway, you know, some people were watching that and they were like, they're gonna fire this guy at any time. Vince would fire this, and it's like Vince ain't there anymore.
Right.
And if
Right.
you watch Raw, Kerian Cross showed up,
Right,
got
of
a
course.
huge pop because people had seen that video, and I'll bet you anything they go with that guy. They're gonna
They
at least
should.
try. If
Yeah.
it doesn't work, whatever.
Hey.
But I
Right.
think they figured out finally that this guy is talented,
Let,
and
let,
let's see what we can do with him.
let me tell you this, Brian. We were talking about this yesterday. He should be cutting promos with Punk, Seth, Drew, Cody. That's how good he is and how believable he is.
Yeah, they
Awesome.
always gave him they gave him the gimmick and they gave him the promos and like he delivered them fine, but you could tell it wasn't him. It's kind of what you're talking about earlier, like someone playing pro wrestler or whatever.
Right.
He was playing a character that wasn't him.
Right.
But like, if you let him be him,
Right.
he's clearly a great promo.
Right.
And it's not even just a great promo, but they did a segment in the hotel room. Did you see the hotel room one about the Miz?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, this was
Oh,
like
this
this
is
was
one.
months ago. It was.
Oh, yeah,
We
right.
played it on the show where the Miz.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was like,
Yeah.
this guy is awesome.
Yeah.
But they never on television, so
Right.
hopefully they will now.
Yo, what's up? I just want to thank you guys for watching this clip. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And join our YouTube membership for hours and hours of exclusive, unedited, uncensored content. And being a member will help you get involved in our upcoming live streams. Thank you for your support. Thank you for riding with us. I know you got a lot of other podcast choices, be it wrestling or other ones. And thank you for picking us. Boom.